I've been pretty busy this month. I've had a hard time sticking to just one game, so instead I'm going to talk about three different games that have been eating my spare time.
Tale of Immortal.
Tale of Immortal is a game released by the CCP to demonstrate China's never-ending search for power and immortality. In it, you play as a Chinese rice farmer who goes for a walk in a bamboo forest and finds an old man. Turns out, Grandpa wasn't abducted for re-education all those years ago. He's just been playing Go by himself in the woods. After speaking to him, you pass through a thick mist. It's time to break through the chains of your own mortality, become a demigod, and climb to the top of a big-ass mountain. Why? Because it turns out you're the protagonist of an RPG. Tale of Immortal takes place in a mythical version of China. Specifically, the game is part of the
线下
genre. The long and the short of it is, everyone is chasing a higher power level and trying to become immortal. Get it? It's in the name. More seriously, you take on the role of a cultivator, someone who is simply chasing that dream. Essentially, you're playing as a baby bitch version of Goku, and it's up to you to channel your inner chi and ascend to godhood. After a brief tutorial that explains just about nothing, you're tossed into the open world, and it's up to you to figure out what to do and where to go. But of course, just like the real world, you'll need those fat stacks of spirit stones to get anywhere fast. You can obtain these from completing quests, fighting horrific monstrosities, selling resources, or from other cultivators. You see, in Tale of Immortal, you interact with other cultivators and form lasting relationships, whether they're your friends, or you've pissed them off so much that they make it their sole mission to put you in a body bag. I don't really know where to start with this system, so here's a couple examples. My first character, low on funds and constantly getting shit on by other cultivators, did what any self-respecting and well-adjusted person does in this situation. I found someone weaker than me, bullied them repeatedly, and took their lunch money. And, once she got tired of it and stood up for herself, murdered her in cold blood. But I really didn't think this through, because now I've been getting griefed by her much higher level friend for the last 10 hours. It's okay though, because I made it my next mission to not die alone and find a waifu. And I did, and it was good. Until I found a new waifu with a much bigger personality. My second character is a selfish, arrogant asshole, hitting a little bit too close to home here, whose only real goal is to achieve a higher level of being
by any means necessary.
I've yet to murder anyone, but every single person I talk to thinks that I'm a waste of air. As you might guess, this character doesn't have many friends, but he'll show them all once he's a Super Saiyan. But before he can become a god walking among men, he has to achieve Foundation, the first step in his ascent to godhood. But, I'm not going to settle for that shit-tier mortal foundation. I'm going to heaven, after all. To do this, I've been grinding for materials across various locations on the map. Mercifully, it doesn't take very long to get what you need. You just need to know what you're looking for. Wondering what foundation is? Me too. Everything is randomly generated, from the powers, characters, and map locations, so no playthrough will ever be exactly the same. Probably should have mentioned that earlier. I'm a sucker for sandbox games, and this one really scratches that itch. I absolutely love the dynamic relationships that form with the characters, the bullet hell style ARPG combat, and the self-directed goal of becoming an awe-inspiring, endlessly powerful demigod is just so alluring. Word of advice, though, if you do pick it up, give it a couple hours to get to grips with it. At first, I didn't think it was very good, but after I started to figure out what I was supposed to be doing, I very quickly fell in love with the game. I rate this game one full-sized anime body pillow.
Splinter Cell Chaos Theory.
Splinter Cell Chaos Theory has you taking on the role of Solid Snake as he attempts to break into Shadow Moses. I still remember the first time I booted it up. I got my greasy 9-year-old hands on a copy for the Xbox and proceeded to completely fail at this whole sneaking thing. I wasn't a very patient child. Luckily for me, I revisited the game this month, and I gotta say, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory may be one of the best stealth games I've ever played. The plot is not that important. What is important is the gameplay. You've got a super robust set of tools and a mean motherfucker to play as. Sam Fisher is still one of my favorite protagonists in all of gaming. He's an extremely sarcastic and patient man, who, with the press of the right mouse button, shatters the spine of any poor bastard that you're currently holding at knife point. The levels are fantastic, particularly in the earlier stages of the game. While they're definitely linear by modern standards, they still offer multiple paths and approaches to completing your objectives. Speaking of objectives, those range from simply assassinating a target to breaking into a bank vault to steal a hard drive. Get comfy, because this game is slow. The enemy AI is still better than like 90% of modern stealth games, so you'll actually need to take your time to get around them or pick them off one by one. I'm going to give you 3 guesses as to what my favorite approach is. When you're not giving someone a permanent disability, you can use the scroll wheel to determine Sam's speed, and by extension how much noise he makes when he's sneaking up behind somebody to put them in a chokehold. Don't want to creep up on somebody from behind? Leave a door open and the guards will notice that. Lure your unsuspecting victim into a room and laugh as you reduce his spinal column to nothing but dust. Not creative enough for you? Whistle on the opposite side of a door, wait for the guard to come and check it out, and then slam that door in his face, sending his broken body across the whole room. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, but I've still got a whole other game to talk about, so I'm moving on. My only real complaint with Splinter Cell is that it can feel a little dated by modern standards. But take the time to get used to the control scheme, and I think you'll be more than glad that you played it. I'm giving Splinter Cell Chaos Theory a wheelchair, because God knows this guard is going to need one.
0 hour.
0 Hour is a dream come true. It's the closest thing we've got to SWAT 4. You haven't played SWAT 4? Don't talk to me. 0 Hour is a tactical first-person shooter, and get this, it only costs the price of a Subway sandwich. Set in Bangladesh, you take on the role of judge, jury, and executioner, and it's up to you to go into horrifying situations and dispense justice however you see fit. You'll kit yourself out with one of the many weapons in the game, along with whatever attachments you want, pick your utility gear like night vision or grenades, and be dropped into Mega City 1. From there, it's up to you to form a plan and arrest or kill any suspects you come across. But just remember, no plan survives contact with the enemy. Each map is somewhat dynamic, meaning that the locations of objectives, hostages, and terrorists, well, hell, even the layout changes from mission to mission. This makes each map very replayable and encourages you to keep coming back to commit more acts of police brutality.
Execute, man. Oh my god.
The gameplay is great. You really need to take your time clearing each room, or you might just find out that one of the terrorists is literally hiding under the bed, and now suddenly you have stumps where your legs used to be. So you might be thinking, shit, the AI sounds pretty smart. Wrong! They're simultaneously very smart and very stupid. It's not uncommon for them to do things that surprise you. But, then again, it's also not uncommon to see an entire group of them be shot and killed one at a time as they poke their little terrorist heads around the corner. If co-op isn't your thing, there is also a PvP game mode that is basically just Rainbow Six Siege without all the bullshit. You can actually play 0 Hour and not have this sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach that Tom Clancy is spinning in his grave. The sound design is a little rough. While the gun sounds are generally pretty great, the voice acting and interaction sound effects aren't. They're not so bad that it detracts from the overall experience, but the game could certainly use some work on that front. But, on the other hand, I feel bad complaining about a game I was able to buy for the cost of a cheap lunch. I highly recommend it, and that's not a false confession. The price makes it super approachable, so it's not very hard to convince your friends to play it with you. Just remember, it's not homicide if you put a gun next to their hand. 0 Hour is getting Judge Dredd out of 10.
Conclusion.
Thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really do appreciate all the support I've gotten these last couple months. Like, I recently just hit 10,000 overall views across my content, which that's just wild to me. Like, I really, really didn't expect to hit any sort of milestone like that for like a year, maybe two, right? Like, I've heard how hard it is to get started on YouTube, and you know, I'm obviously still very much starting out, but still, the amount of support I've gotten from just random people on the internet is so encouraging. And yeah, I really just wanted to take the time again and just say thank you so much. It really does mean the world to me. And yeah, do take care.